So joining me for another bite-sized Science Week conversation is ACES affiliate and UOW Biofabrication PhD student, Jeremy Dinoro. Jeremy, thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Thanks, Sam. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you doing? You're in Wollongong. Most people I've spoken to for these conversations have been in Melbourne, and they've got much higher restrictions than us. How's life been for you over these past few months as a researcher?
It's definitely different, but we're not going through the same restrictions like Melbourne are. So I've still been able to get in the lab and get some research done.
This is Science Week, so we should start with, I guess, science and your area of research. Could you explain exactly what that is?
Yeah, so was one of the first master's students to take on a biofabrication master's degree. And that was a dual master's degree between the University of Wollongong and a European university. So I got to do an exchange. That's what essentially brought me into science in a way. And then my research there was on wound dressings, so medical research. And then I moved on to do a PhD back in Wollongong after I had a stint in Europe.
So what attracted you to study science, back in the day when you first sort of did that undergrad degree?
Well, even before that, when I was through high school, I found that I excelled a little bit at the sciences without making too much of an effort. So I thought, well, maybe I should do that. And then I always wanted to do medical research. So I did biotechnology because it blended what my interests are, which are consumer technology, anything from phones, laptops, audio to photography. I like all that stuff. I could geek out with you for a couple of hours. So I did that, and I also brought in the science aspect, the academia aspect that I had. So I blended those two things together, and that's where I am now.
So what would be your favorite aspect of your research?
I think because it's dynamic. I think because some days I can start tinkering with electronics and programming and CAD design, but also do some scientific analysis, some technical analysis of different chemistries, or even pursue a bit of biology to see how my 3D printed constructs behave in animals or in humans.
And you've studied science both in Australia and abroad. How did it differ?
Well, the lab I went to in Utrecht in the Netherlands was more biology based. So everything was centered around that, whereas in Wollongong it's all materials based. So they approach things here with more of a chemistry or analytical mind. Whereas over there, they look at actually applying it to maybe get to a human study, or at least do animal studies. So their focus is slightly different. Even though the end product might be the same, they just approach things slightly differently.
So, for Science Week, I'm wondering if you can maybe offer some advice for future scientists out there that are maybe thinking about doing a PhD.
Well, I found that immunology was my strongest subject in my undergrad. So I always wanted to do something related to disease or health, purely based on that reason. So what the advice I would come up with is look at everything when you're studying for your finals. If something seems like a chore when you're studying it and you actually have to push yourself to do that study and it doesn't seem intriguing or interesting and it feels like it's extra work, don't do that. Do the thing that allows you to just flow through it and get through it without, taking away from your life.
Great. And lastly, I mentioned you're a PhD student at the moment. How far off finishing, and what are your plans once you've finished that PhD?
Well, my PhD is an industry PhD, so I'm actually working for a company in Melbourne called Anatomics, the medical devices company, who do implants for patients, primarily facial implants and cranial implants. So I'll probably do something in the clinical field because it seems like my research could be applied. But also I could potentially see myself just continuing research as well.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us for Science Week. All the best as we navigate through this difficult time with COVID-19, and hopefully I'll see you back at the Innovation Campus soon.
Thanks a lot, there.